Good afternoon, everybody. We are in the full holiday season swing over here. Normally, if you're a longtime watcher of the show, we usually put a Christmas tree up back here somewhere, but unfortunately this year it has to live upstairs for the time being. My living room takes better precedence over my little studio space, but the Santa hat will come out next week. You know, it's Christmas time, and the holiday spirit is in full swing down here. Maybe should have made the Scouching light green. Maybe I can do that now. Let's try it. There we go. There we go. It's Crimbus. Congratulations, everybody. We made it. Another year, another trip around the sun, and it's Christmas time. Also, happy Hanukkah to all of those who celebrate. I've got lots of Jewish family that lived in the U.S. and love them dearly and hope they're having a good time. You know, lots of all the little kids they've got getting all the things they could ever want and having some good times. So anyway, the rankings came out Monday night. If you haven't noticed, it's just me today. You've got the Will Only dashboard in front of you. The rankings came out Monday. You can already see on the sidebar here that they've already changed. Went through a couple of the high-end guys yesterday. Flipped some stuff around, and it just goes to show for me how close this whole range is, honestly. So close. And I was actually talking about this. I'm in the PDO Cast Discord server, and I usually hang out in the draft prospects section in there. So if you're a PDO Cast fan, you can talk to me there directly too. And we've been talking about this kind of stuff for a long time, off and on, you know, and especially after last night, there was the warm-up game between Canada and Sweden. A lot of eyes on Gavin McKenna for, you know, the rightful reasons and all of that, and he was apparently pretty good. I only saw little bits and pieces of it. I was too busy watching Survivor last night, the Survivor finale, which ran really late for reasons we don't need to discuss. But so I was busy doing that, unfortunately. So I wasn't able to catch the warm-up game, and I don't really think too much about those anyway. Anyway, yeah, so the point is the rankings have dropped. If you haven't read them, let me just go get them, and I'll post them in the chat. I will say, last night on Survivor, Rizgod dropping a "We're Cooked" chat on national television was pretty funny. All right. There. The link is in the chat if you want to read and see what I have to say about this kind of thing. Which, why wouldn't you, honestly? You know, how could you not? But anyway, yeah, so it's just me today. We'll try to keep up with chat. We will. We won't try. We will. Definitively. And yeah, the World Juniors are right around the corner. Cuts already came in today. Vanaker, O'Brien, and Jackson Smith cut from the Canadian roster. I'm not too caught up about it. I think the Canadian team would have to try really hard not to have probably the best roster in the entire tournament this year. But from what I did see of last night, the Swedish team did look pretty good. So there's that too. But anyway, I guess that's the first question in the chat here. World Juniors 2026 predictions coming soon. Yeah, so we'll do that. I want to see some teams trim things down. I've started the write-up, so if you're a subscriber on this weekend, I'm going to put it together and post it for all the subscribers on Scouching.ca. And it will be public the day the World Juniors starts, because sometimes some stuff comes in last minute. I have to change the write-ups a little bit, but I can only go off of the most current information that I have. And so we're going to have that. I mean, I do want to do a video as well, so probably, again, like, give it a couple of days to see who gets cut and who doesn't. It's really tricky because some teams leave it till like the last second to post their full rosters. So you don't want to be like out of date, but also it takes time to put a video together. So it's a little bit tricky, but in general, yeah, we're going to put something together between now and when the tournament starts, which is in a week. So a week tomorrow. All right. Well, that means my weekend just got a little busier. Anyway, yeah, so we will do that. I mean, it's, yeah, so far though, I'm so excited for this tournament. Like, I love the World Juniors because, like, over the years, I've learned to kind of have more fun doing this and kind of just let the chips fall and just enjoy it, because I can't control anything, you know? I'm just enjoying it. I'm watching. I'm having some fun. I try not to take myself too seriously, and I think the World Juniors is just such a treat for all hockey fans. If you take it so seriously that it's the be all end all, and Canada not winning a gold medal is a disappointment that ruins your day. Like, you know what? Fair enough, but that's not me. It's the greatest. I think it's the greatest tournament in hockey. I just think that you just get so much going on. There's so much drama. It's such a great example of why I also kind of like junior hockey and younger players playing, because there's more room for errors and creativity and like a little bit of craziness and a little bit of silliness. That kind of makes it really unpredictable, and just like the drama is pretty incredible, and all of that stuff. So this year I think is going to be no different. I mean, I know on paper Canada probably looks like the favorite, but things are shaken out. Like Finland, I think will be, I mean, they're younger than they usually are. Although they're not the youngest team in the tournament by any stretch. Right now that belongs to Slovakia. But Finland and Slovakia are bringing a lot of draft eligibles to this season. Sweden is as well, sure. And I think it just goes to show, like, we've been talking a lot on this show over the year about how good this draft class looks. Like it's really fascinating. Like, again, going back to the discussion in the PDOcast Discord server, like, I think a lot of the discussion, and I think a big thing that I have learned over the years is that, like, when you're doing this kind of work, like, these kids are all like a lot closer to each other than you might think. Like, Canada has a lot of good players, right? But so does the Czech Republic, so does the United States, so does Sweden, so does Finland. And now I would say Slovakia has some good young ones that are cracking the roster and making it into the lineup for this season. And so I always really, really love watching these guys, because I think it just goes to show how good a lot of these kids are. So when you're looking at this year's draft class, it's really hard to sift through them and go, I don't think it's very easy to be definitive right now. And that's why Mathis Preston, who was number 1 for me on Monday, is number 3 for me on Thursday. Because you see more of these guys, you see more things you like out of other guys, you see more of this and that, and more consistency in a certain area and whatever. And at the end of the day, like, I think it's just more normal now that there's just a good group of players that you can sort of tier out a little bit and then sort of sift through it. And one of the things I keep stressing is, like, I think the way to do a lot of this and the way to look at it is like different facets of the game, different areas where players are strong and different areas where they are deficient. And I kind of assume that once the NHL happens at that point, those strengths and weaknesses will shake themselves out in some way. They'll have the same sort of comfort zone and the same sort of areas where they're uncomfortable, right? Like, I think comfort zone is a really important concept for a hockey player. And I am a hockey player, right? Like, I play defense. I know for a fact that there are areas where I am more confident than others. And if I knew that my trajectory was to get into higher and higher levels, like, working to fix the areas where make the areas where I'm less confident, areas where I'm more confident, but then I jump up a level of hockey and my opponents are better and better and better. Like, it probably resets things a little bit. And I think we see that a lot with young players. And I think with this year's draft class, it's really important to keep in mind, like, those areas where there are definitely strengths, and I think a lot of guys this year have real good strengths in their game, and areas where they are a little bit deficient. And it just makes it a lot harder, I guess is what I'm saying, but in a good way. So, like, I think this year's World Junior will be a really, really good example of that at play, especially with the draft eligibles this year, because they don't often. I would have to look at the history of how many draft eligibles crack the rosters of these teams, because I feel like it's more than usual, especially looking at the Slovaks. The Canadians are bringing at least 1. The Swedes have 4, I think. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited. I can't wait for it. It's going to be a good time. Caleb Malhotra breakdown. Yeah, I mean, so... Yeah, so these are Discord people yelling at me about Caleb Malhotra. I mean, look, I think Malhotra is a very, very curious case for this season. I think that I personally don't see him as like an offensive dynamo, honestly. I don't see him as a truly like a guy that I can definitely see playing a strong offensive role in the National Hockey League. I think that when he plays with guys like Cooper Dennis and Adam Banach, that those two guys he glues those guys together in a really good way, but he's not driving that offensive bus. It's those two that are really pushing the pace of the game, carrying the puck, making plays in the offensive zone. Malhotra is more of a board play, positioning oriented breakout guy who passes the puck pretty well. He's a pretty strong on his feet player. Like, I see Malhotra as, I've said this a million times, but similar to his dad, right? I could see him being a good in the faceoff dot bottom six center that can insulate guys or solidify more skilled guys or something along those lines. That I really like out of Malhotra, but I think it's one of those things where I think people might be getting a little carried away with what's already there. Like, a lot of people are talking about like how good he is defensively and how much of a beast he is, whatever. But and there are times where you see him, throwing his weight around. I've seen him do a few really nice reverse hits. He's a decent puck protector, but I don't think he really has the quickness and the foot speed right now to track down, unless play comes directly at him, right? Like, guys kind of have been slicing and dicing through him a lot in the games that I've seen of Malhotra, like stick checks and kind of defending with his reach rather than his feet, and that's something that doesn't project super well, especially if you don't have that high-end quickness and intensity, which I'm not sure he has. But when it comes to like grabbing the puck, making some space, getting his bum out in the way, causing a bit of a ruckus and just getting a pass off to someone else, and then supporting them up the rush and whatever, and going to the net, making some nice plays in tight, sure, you can definitely see moments like that. I think for me, he's more of that prototypical mid to late first round, you can just see him working out in some way in the NHL, but I don't think it's a fully baked thing yet, and I certainly don't see him as the best center in this year's draft class. I don't think he's that far back because there aren't that many centers in this year's draft that I would really consider really high. But, he's solid, literally. And I think there's something there, but I don't know. Again, it's one of those things where it's like, instead of thinking he's one of the 10 best players in the world for his age, I think he's maybe one of the top 40. And like, that may be a big difference, but I think in this year's draft class, that's not saying a whole lot. I don't think the gaps between these guys are even, I don't even think they exist. Like, could you argue him ahead of William Hokanson on my list? I would really not be in agreement with that, but I see the argument, I suppose. You know what I mean? Oliver Suvanto, Malte Gustafsson, yeah, I could see the argument, but I don't see it the same way. Malhotra or Lawrence? It's Lawrence. You know this. Come on. Top 5 centers in the draft while you're at it. Yeah. So what do we got here? So the guys that definitely play center, let me just pull up my actual tracked data, because I know some guys get listed as centers and they sometimes are not. So we've got, who do we have here? Who have I done a lot of time on? Malhotra, Suvanto, Haffley, Horenko, Shilov, Vandenberg, Lawrence, obviously, Hextall, Logan Stewart. Okay, so I would say that my favorite center to watch has been Lawrence. I would say Hextall is probably right after him. I love Jack Hextall. We watched a game of him in the server the other day, and he was like, he's one of these guys where I think if you have a really good development staff and they think there's a lot they can do with him and take him into the future in a good way, I think you're going to get a heck of a hockey player there. Like, he is probably one of the smartest players in the class, like, just in terms of his reads, his pass vision, his sense of awareness on the ice, and like, he always seems to be in the right spots. And it's not just because he's not active and not doing anything. It's because he's like moving around and finding little pockets and constantly active in play. And I love that about a player. Like, to me, it's like, if he gets more skilled and more agile and he's got a pretty good shot, but I'd love to see him use it a little bit more. I could see a heck of a guy up the middle there, like second line center type guy. I love him to death. He's not there yet, but I think in time he certainly could be. I'd throw Ilya Morozov in there as well. I have Morozov in the top 25, like just behind Hextall. He's not the same. He's more of like a physical, but I think he's like a discount Suvanto. Oh, Suvanto is a center too. Yeah. Suvanto probably is ahead of Hextall just because of how projectable he is and how young he is. And I think, again, any development from here will be only a positive for him. It'll just fit his style of play because I think he also moves the puck really well. And so I think if an NHL team can sink their teeth into him and he puts in the work, I think he's going to be a pretty darn good center too. So Lawrence, Suvanto, Hextall, Morozov, and then we go Sorensen I've got in there too. But Sorensen and Malhotra, they're very different players. Sorensen is a higher upside, I think, but like a more offensive upside, but definitely not the certainty whatsoever that I think a Malhotra brings. So whether you like Malhotra more, okay, sure, fine. I just really like the explosiveness and the offensive sense and the playmaking ability and the finishing ability of a Sorensen right now relative to a Malhotra, which I value, but definitely a longer road ahead for Sorensen than there is for Malhotra. Logan Stewart is barely in my first round now. I just think he's a guy who in my world could be a third line, fourth line center. If I were building a team, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he is like very fast and very skilled on his feet and really physical. Like he's a more physical player than you would think. So I think if you really value centers who are skating skating heavy first and foremost in terms of exploding out of turns, wheeling up in the defensive zone, controlling the center of the ice with good possessions and all of that, I think there's a lot you can work with a guy like Stewart. You give him some time in college. I don't think he's a top 6 guy, and I don't think he's a likely high-end NHL player because of how the NHL wants centers to be. But in my world, I really like him. I think as a puck possession heavy, two-way speed first center that might not be the biggest guy in the world, but plays bigger than he is. I think Stewart's a pretty good contender. What a terrible season of Survivor. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I will say this about Survivor, and I don't know if people haven't seen it and want to, I won't spoil anything, but I will say that, like, I don't think it's controversial to say that they kind of ruined it by telling us which players on this season were coming back for the next one. Like, before the season even starts, you go, okay, these 2 people, they're going to be on season 50. It's like, well, you just told us they go deep, right? And they are both still there going into the finale, right? So, I don't know. I think that season would have been significantly better if that story hadn't been blown up before the season even started. I think this season would have been really, really good. But I do think that show desperately needs to rethink how they cast characters. Desperately. I think it is very 2016 coded, right? Like, oh, we're just here to have a good time. We're here to have an experience, and we're here to, yada. And I've learned so much about myself, and yada, 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 and like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, fair enough. True. But everyone's boring. Like everyone is basically just kind of there. And I don't know. I still will watch. I'm still watching. I still love it. It's still great. We came second in our Survivor pool that we're in and took home some cash, right? It's fun. But boy, I hate it, but I love it. It's a love-hate thing with that show sometimes. And the preview for season 50 that they showed was agonizing. I will say that too. It looked abysmal. I mean, there's going to be celebrity guests. Mr. Beast is like sponsoring a game, like a segment, or one of the challenges or something. It just like if we start to see Survivor turn into the, instead of like Applebee's sponsoring the rewards for a couple of seasons, it's like every challenge is like, oh yeah, Coca-Cola sponsored this challenge, and it's the first, you win a 2-liter bottle of Coca-Cola if you spell Coca-Cola as a puzzle, right? It's like, that's when you kind of might lose me, and I think you might lose a lot of people, and I think they're dangerously close with they mentioned it in the trailer, the Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol, or Boomerang something advantage, I think, or something like that, which, like, I don't even want to no, I don't know about that one, but we'll see. I'm gonna watch it. I will give it time. I will give it its chance to surprise me, but I watched I watched that preview. I was making a sandwich for the better half for her lunch at work today. And I was watching the preview, and when Mr. Beast showed up, I literally, like, in the kitchen, I went, oh no, and I thought she would think something was wrong, or like I had chopped my finger off or something, when in reality I just saw Mr. Beast's face on Survivor and had a little freak out. But then I moved on with my life and made a sandwich. Alexander Command thoughts, sudden contender for name of the year. Yeah, well, Command is really interesting. I think there are areas of his game that is really interesting. Like, EP had him in the first round, and I can see why. Like, he's a really gifted skater. I think he's a decent passer. He's got some good pace and energy in his game. But I just don't know if he's projectable to the NHL reliably enough where I have him in the first round. Like, his defensive game is significantly less impactful. But he is generating a lot of offense, right? He's this very offense-heavy guy in the games that I've seen. And, he's a very impressive skater. There's some very impressive sort of edges on his skating stride. He creates room for himself pretty well. But there's just, like, it's hard to explain, but you just kind of watch him and you go, this just seems like a guy who might just not quite be there enough for the NHL in terms of, like, dealing with the physicality and the speed of the NHL. Like, it's kind of funny that a guy named Command likes to be in command of the puck and sort of be the guy with it. But, like, when he's challenged and played tight defensively, things kind of fall apart a little bit. And we'll see what happens with him. I mean, I haven't seen him in a little while, and I'm looking at his data profile right now. It's not nothing. There's nothing, like, troublesome or bad about it at all, really, especially offensively. But there are some questionable areas, and defensively, I definitely have made notes on him where I go, yeah, like, if you want your center to be a more two-way presence, like, I guess what I'm saying is, like, I don't see him as a third-line center in the NHL or a fourth-line center, and I'm not sure he has quite enough of that, like, offensive upside right now to project as a top two-line center, right? Like, if he had the physicality of a guy like a Logan Stewart, for example, from my experience, like, I would be a little bit, like, I'd be more favorable, and I think Logan Stewart is a similar-ish type of player who I think I like a little bit more. But Command is where on my list? Yeah, like, second round. Like, I think as a second round pick, you stash him in Sweden for a while, and I think, like, you might get something out of him, right? I'm not sure he has as much inside drive and skill as a guy like Lucas Pettersson or Milton Yastrin. But I think there's a bit of similarity there, kind of, sort of, and he does have some value. I'll be around for pre-World Juniors show Monday if you want. Oh, okay. Sure. If you're the producer, if you want to be there, you can be there. At this moment, who do you believe will be the top point producers on Team Canada? Appreciate the videos. I mean, it depends. Like, I think if you take a lot of penalties against Canada, Gavin McKenna is going to score 100 million points. I would think, like, Martone will be a major part of it. McKenna, Misa, probably those guys. Zane Parekh, maybe. I could see Zane Parekh. Like, it all really depends on who's running their power plays, right? Like, who's on PP1, because those guys will get the most reps, period. And I think if you look at 5-on-5 results, like, I mean, I'm thinking back to my results watching these guys over the last 2 years, and Misa, McKenna, Martone, Parekh, all of those guys, I think, are all really good candidates to do that. Yeah, something like that. Albert Smits, best Latvian player potentially drafted in the past few years? Probably. Let's see. Who are I don't even know who the Latvians are who have been drafted in the last few years. Let's take a look here. Drafts from Latvia. 43 players. Only 43 players from Latvia have been drafted. Well, so the first Latvians drafted have been Matejko. I think Smits is way better. Lokmelis, way better. There was only one Latvian in 2020. I don't even really remember Ivis Onsens. Artur Silovs, I would take Schmitz over Rodrigo Abels in 2016. Martins Djurkaus, I mean, I think you'd have to go back to, yeah, he might be the most promising Latvian in a long time since Latvia became a country. I'm looking at like Jurgensens and Blugers and Skrastinch. I think you have more upside in a Schmitz. He may be the most interesting Latvian player since like Ozelinch. And Ozelinch was born in the Soviet Union. So, yeah, I think he's got a ton of upside potential, and if he goes to the right team, he's going to be a rock star, I think. Carson Karl's thoughts, draft range. Well, it seems like Karl's is going to be a top 10 pick, and I can okay. So again, going back to the discussion at the top of the draft of the show, if you break a player down into areas where they are comfortable and excel, and areas where they are somewhat problematic at the moment, I think Karl's definitely has individual areas of his game that I think deserve top 10 consideration, right? Like, I've said this a few times, but if you leave a loose puck in the neutral zone anywhere near him, he can turn and get into the offensive zone really fast, run a rush really quickly, drive down deep in the offensive zone and make plays. There's no doubting that. Like, that's an area where, like, Karl's, the first time I watched him this year with Prince George, it was, for me, like my notes, it was really a quiet game by and large. And I'm looking at his data profile right now. The only areas where he's showing super positive results are once the puck is in the offensive zone. His defensive results have been a little bit underwhelming. I have to go back and watch more of him, though. I will say it's been a little while, so this might not be the freshest to take. But with Karl's, it's a lot of, like, he's in his comfort zone a lot in the offensive zone, and defensively the results are a little bit questionable. He's very shot heavy in the offensive zone. So to me, it's like Karl's is a guy where there are moments that really impress you, where in terms of, like, if he's got a head of steam going and he's driving the offensive zone and commanding the puck and getting on the half wall and driving deep down towards the goal line, you can definitely see a high-end offensive defenseman there. But in terms of, like, his mobility, his instincts when the puck is on the cycle in the offensive zone, that's where things get a little sketchy to me. And outside of the offensive zone, I just haven't seen a top 10 level dominant potential defenseman there. Especially when you look at some of the other guys that are in that range for me, like Schmitz and even Reed. I don't think you're going to see the same kind of offensive instincts out of a guy like Håkansson. I think you're dreaming if you think Håkansson's going to score as much as Karl's if they make the NHL. But I think it's going to be one of those ones where the details of one's game kind of, to me, outweigh the other. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, in the WHL, Karl's hasn't blown me away in the same way that for other CHL, like the only other CHL defenseman I have in the top 10 is Villeneuve. And we just watched him yesterday, and he was mind-blowingly good in a lot of areas of the game, right? And so if I look at a guy like Karl's and I see an individualized area of the game where I think it's really impressive, that to me is worth a pick in the first round. But all in all, like, overall, the results for me are a bit more mixed. And for me, there's just things that are deficient in areas that I think are really important that just put other guys ahead of them that I think I'm a little bit more confident in. I always root for Kazakhstan. Heck yeah. Whenever you look at their roster, it's usually middle of the pack tier 2 players. That's literally just you and your buddies suiting up to play Team Canada. Heck yeah. I mean, look, I went to the Kazakhstan-Germany relegation game last year. I sat front row, and Kazakhstan almost won, man. They almost stayed in the tournament, and it would have been great. And unfortunately, it didn't work. I would have loved to see Alisher Sarkinov, Prince Albert Raiders legend, in the World Juniors this year, but instead he just shredded Division 1A. Albeit Kazakhstan didn't make it. But yeah, I mean, look, I love the Kazakh vibe. Last year, I was a huge Kazakhstan fan. I will also say Central Asia is a place I've always wanted to travel. It seems like a very beautiful, the Silk Road history and how affordable it is once you get there. The flights are not cheap from here, and it's long, but it's pretty cheap to stay there. You could live pretty comfortable. You could do a vacation there pretty comfortably and have some good times. So yeah, like that whole area of the world has always been really interesting to me. I always love Kazakhstan. It's awesome that they are one of the more successful Soviet states that have come out in the hockey world. Belarus probably clears them, but right now we don't know. But anyway, yeah, I'm a fan too. Do you believe God? I believe him. If God showed up and said things, I would believe him. I'd go, yep, you're definitely God. So yeah, I believe you. Like whatever. If you left out the word in, let's put it this way. I'm a geek when it comes to the universe and the everything in which to quote Kamala Harris, the context within which everything we live, whatever, within the context of everything in which we live, I think that I don't think we just fell out of a coconut tree. No, I'm sorry, but seriously, I look at the universe and all of its complexity and all of the things we don't know about it, and the fact that we are living in an era where it is possible for us to look around and what's the Carl Sagan quote? We are the human beings are the universe experiencing itself. Like, whether or not you believe in like God, I think that is an incredible enough thing for the universe to have achieved, right? That whether there's some sort of sentient, deity out there controlling everything or not, and to me that's such an incredible thing that I see that as almost like a religious belief for me. You know what I mean? Like the fact that I don't know if something was like, I'm setting the events in motion that lead to humanity, right? I don't know. But I do think that the fact that one way or the other we ended up in this spot and the capabilities that we've gained are such an incredible achievement, especially considering when you look out into the universe, at least in our experience, there's nothing like this out there. At least not yet, right? That's a pretty incredible thing and experience, right? And I think that to me is like the core of it all. It's like that's why I love being alive. It's like you get that experience, right? Like a deer in the woods doesn't really get that experience. Deer in the woods has no idea about any of that. They're just living, they're vibing. And if people want to do that too, and they don't really think about things that way, then so be it as well, right? But to answer your question, the answer is probably I don't know. When Tony referred to Villeneuve defending with his feet, does that mean with speed and pinching? So I think partially, but for me with Villeneuve, the big thing is that he does there's this concept that a lot of coaches are trying to get defensemen to do. It's not a universal thing, but I think it's a good strategy for a lot of defensemen where instead of always focusing on keeping the play in front of you, especially if you're a really good skater, like if you're mobile and you have good fluid pivots and you can change directions effectively and you can generate some speed pretty effectively, like if you can do all of those things, then keeping the play in front of you is not necessarily the most important thing. And you can afford to be more aggressive in the neutral zone, right? So the big thing with Villeneuve is that if the puck gets out of the offensive zone, it's not usually that he's always, making bad decisions and pinching and everything, but it's more about like the puck's coming the other way. Villeneuve might be on an equal plane with them, right? If a play is moving up the ice like this, Villeneuve might not be, if this is his net, Villeneuve might not be here with these two guys here, but he might be like here and cutting across and trying to guide these guys towards the boards and like break up that rush as it's happening, right? So, he's not a physical defenseman, he's pestering them, right? Like it's about pressuring them to places where they're not in control. And I think that's something that he does really well, where it's like he uses his feet to not just generate offense and not just pinch in the offensive zone and do the Lane Hudson thing, but he uses his feet to cover ice defensively and get involved with the stick and really just pester guys, pester guys as they come up the ice and guide them in areas where they don't want to go. Yes, I do need a whiteboard. I thought I had one. I might have thrown it out. Anyway, the point is, the point is like it's about, like, to me, I don't care what the result is as long as you are defending your zone, right? And over the years of my data work that I've compiled and analyzed in retrospect, like defending, there is very little correlation between various events and defending. But there is a correlation between just being involved at or before the defensive blue line, right? Like I've said this so many times on the show, but the game of hockey to me oftentimes is won and lost through the neutral zone. Like if you can defend the neutral zone, it makes your life so much easier. And if you can control the puck through the neutral zone, it makes your life so much easier. And that's why I value it so much. And I think with Villeneuve, in the defensive zone, yes, there are moments where you're like, ugh, but it's one of those things where it's like you might just have to live with those shortcomings and try to adapt and develop him to be passable if it's not up to your expectation. But the positives are where you really focus, right? And I think that he is a little bit better defending with his feet and covering ice and his range than I think he gets credit for. Almost like deception. I mean, in the offensive zone, I think that's where you see a lot more deception, and on the rush, there's a lot more deception. And I think Villeneuve does, especially in the offensive zone, you have a ton of that with him, right? Like you can tell he loves Lane Hudson just by how he plays in the offensive zone, but he also does things that I don't think Lane Hudson at this age had the capability of doing. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. So, and on the rush, like sometimes you see him sort of faking and shaking and going different directions and changing lanes and all that. But for me, they call, like, the concept I had explained to me a few years ago was they called it scooting. Like a WHL coach explained it to me. They call it scooting in practice. It's like you're trying to scoot across the ice and drive play into an area where they don't want it to be, right? You can do that from the side, right? It's a little bit easier to do that when you're chasing than it is when you are skating backwards and sort of in a glide and the play is coming the opposite direction. Do you know what I mean? Like it's almost like a forecheck but backwards, kind of. A back check, I guess, would be the right word there. Is there a reason McKenna hasn't moved up to first after last night's game? He had 2 whole points. Hey, 2 whole points, that means he moves up 2 whole spots, man. No. No, I haven't seen that game last night. But I don't know. I would expect Gavin McKenna to be pretty successful going back to playing kids from college hockey. When last year playing kids, he shredded the entire league. It's whatever. It is what it is. But the way that McKenna plays going from the NCAA back to junior hockey does not really make a difference to me. You're a lot lower on Rudolph. Oh, Randolph. Is that one of the... If you buy like a set of reindeer, like Santa's reindeer from Temu, is Randolph the one that's in the front? I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm not picking on you. I just think it's funny. What don't you like about Dax and Rudolph, I'm assuming is what you mean? Dax and Rudolph is lower on my list than everyone else has him, right? And I mean, look, I'm not gonna do this because I'm picking on them. I want to say that absolutely clearly. But Dauber Prospects just put out their ranking today, or yesterday, something like that. And I put it in the database today. And I noticed in the Daxon Rudolph write-up, who was ranked in their top 10, and the first sentence is, at his best, Daxon Rudolph has an effortless game. To me, that is the perfect encapsulation of his game. And the next logical thought to me is, who's the NHL defenseman that when you watch him, you go, wow, it looks like there's no effort in his game. Like, I don't think in the NHL in 2025, that's a very good thing, you know? And I know what they're saying. I know the point of what they're saying, right? It's like, oh, he makes the game look easy, you know, yada, yada, yada. But with Rudolph, for me, number one, a lot of his production is on the power play, which to me as a defenseman, it is noise, I think, in my opinion. Like, I don't think it's a very consistently reliable predictor of success, how a defenseman plays on the power play in junior hockey, right? And at 5-on-5 with Rudolph, it's kind of wild because when I track the data in his games, it's not bad. It's not bad. And I think that as a WHL defenseman, he is perfectly fine. And I spoke to someone in the WHL the other day about him because they noticed that I had him really low, and they're like, I'm curious about that. And they said, well, like when he was drafted, like people were thinking like, you know, the common thought was like he was going to be a good WHL, like a very good WHL defenseman, which fair enough. So far he is, right. He's not bad. But then that person also said, like, didn't literally say it, but like ... in the WHL, like he's going to be a good defenseman ... for the WHL. And that to me was like, yeah, stop right there. Like, that's what I'm trying to say is like, I think a guy like him in the NHL it's not going to come as easy as it does in the WHL, right? Like he defends without moving his feet. He defends with his knees locked upright a lot of the time. He does not often hold on to the puck very long, which can be a good thing, but it's also pretty risky. Like, he can sometimes fire the puck and I just go, ugh, like it's a matter. It's like, it's almost like he's, you know, like he just kind of is making plays. Like he's, it's hard to explain, right? Like, it's hard for me to articulate without sounding like I don't I don't know how to explain it, but like it's a thing to me where it's like people talk about his, like, maybe we'll talk about him as like a very poised defenseman, and to me it's like, yeah, but if you pressure him, if you forecheck on him, if you chip and chase around him, like, again, I go back to the checklist of things where I go, how can I coach against this guy? How can I get through this player? And I think I could figure out a way to do it. And when I look at his game, I go, yeah, the thing that I like about him is that sometimes when he does some one-touch passes, they go 100 feet down the ice and it's tape to tape and it's great. And he springs a guy on a breakaway and that's awesome. But I always look at defensemen through the lens of how they defend first. And for me, I just don't know how it projects with Rudolph. Like, there's times where he's kind of looking for the offensive opportunities. He's kind of higher in the defensive zone than he probably should be, kind of getting caught out of position. And like, yeah, that's something maybe you can coach. But it's just a thing where, again, like, in terms of how, like, the type of thing that I value and the type of player that I know that when I put them on a roster, I can trust them and I know what they bring to the game that I really value. Like, maybe I'm missing something and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe, you know, maybe there's a whole explanation of like, well, he doesn't look like he's trying that hard and that's what's so great about him. I mean, maybe that's true, but it doesn't really work in my philosophy the way I've seen him play, right? Like, it just doesn't really work. But so far so solid. Like, he's solid. You know, there's nothing in the data I can point to where it's like, see, this is the problem. I mean, he shoots the puck a lot, but like, whatever. A lot of defensemen do. So yeah, I don't know. It's a projection thing to me, right? Like, I have no issue with him as a WHL defenseman, and definitely there have been some moments where he carves up a guy, gets the puck through some traffic, and has a nice offensive play. But I don't know. I don't see as much there as I think a lot of other people do, at least as an NHL level defenseman. And, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but that's just how I see it. What keeps Casey Mutrin in your top 15? Because he's just a pain in the ass. Like, I think in the modern NHL, Casey Mutrin is one of these guys where, like, if he's a second round pick, like, he's going to be one of these guys that may never score 60 points in college hockey. He may never be that guy that everybody is like, holy crap, we got a steal. Holy crap, we did this and this and this. But then once he hits the NHL, fans are going to go, this guy is great. Like, we want him on our team. Like, with Mutrin, I think he is. I think Mutrin is extremely projectable to the modern NHL game. Like, he's a very simple player, but it's very effective. Like, he gets up and down the ice really, really well. He's got some good skill in his game as well. He is a relentless physical player. Like, he throws himself around. He forechecks really well. I think he's the type of player that guys rally around. Right, like he's the captain of the team, right? And when you watch the NTDP, there's not very many guys that are like him at his level. Like, I think guys like maybe Parker Trottier have a decent physical game and like a decent two-way game, but I look at Casey Mutrin and I just see an inside-driven, heavy forechecking winger with size and strength, and he's not slow. He's pretty explosive as well. And every time I've watched him, it's like, it's like, I don't think, and I think he's a really good example of the type of player in this year's draft that we have a lot of, where it's like, I don't think he's going to change the world. I don't think he's going to be top line. Like, maybe he could play on a top line and augment the skilled guys on that top line. Well, I would like to maybe see that tried one day. But like, to me, and again, I'm in Toronto, I see a lot of Matthew Nyes. I don't think Mutrin is the same as Nyes, but I think he maybe could be if things go right. Like, in terms of, like, I think Nyes protects the puck extremely well, stops up and gaps up on guys well and shakes them off of him really well with his edges and protecting the puck really well. And I think Mutrin, that's a big area where I'd want to see more advancement. But in terms of the big, heavy, physical, forechecking style of play, that there's some skill and he's inside driven and all of these things, like, I think there's some good similarities there. And like, I could see Casey Mutrin being a middle six winger on a Stanley Cup champion or contending team that is valuable in the playoffs, which is what I'm always coming back to, right? Like think about how many times in the playoffs you've watched your favorite team and gone, why did we lose? Why did we win? Why did this happen? And a lot of it comes down to the performances of guys like what I see out of a Mutrin, where, there's that two-way intensity that challenges everybody they're on the ice with. And I think Mutrin is a really good example of that. He may not, I don't think, have the upside of guys lower than him, like Hextall, Hermansen, Novotny, Nemitz, Plant, Lynn, Malhotra, whatever. I don't think he has that kind of upside, but I feel really safe about having him as a guy that's on my team wearing a letter, really valuable, and just a guy who plays a style of play that is very well rounded in a way that I think works in the NHL these days. At least for a team that I would build, right? Like, if I have a top line out there of, I mean, not a top line, but if I'm throwing like a Teddy Stiga over the boards, a guy like Mutrin could do a lot of good work for him. And those two guys together on the wing, forechecking against whoever, I will take that any day. And whoever's playing center, whoever's playing center, right? Like, I don't know. I haven't looked. I don't have the list in front of me, but yeah, I love those two guys. I love him. He's a really interesting player, but I don't think he has quite the same like upside potential in the lineup. But I think he is one of those guys that could bum around a lineup and never look out of place, really. If you're a general manager, do you prefer Will Eklund or Robert Thomas on your team? That is a very niche question. I know a lot more, and I've seen a lot more of Will Eklund than Robert Thomas. I probably would go Eklund. Probably Eklund, but I love Robert Thomas. They're both really good players. I mean, it's tough. Like, I think it might be a coin flip, especially because Thomas is a lot older, right? Robert Thomas is Robert Thomas. Will Eklund? Yeah, Robert Thomas is 26 and Eklund is 23. So there's a bit of a difference between the two. But I might lean Will Eklund. I like Thomas. He's good. I find losing pregame tournament games is the better option. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It builds character when you lose. Huh. Is there anything intriguing with Max Latikainen? Basically the youngest possible player for a draft, just shy of 6 feet, but has 2 Liga games and apparently looked like a good puck mover. What? Are you in my house? Because I watched him this morning. I did a game of him this morning. And I'll check him out in Liga because I did not see... I think he is a decent passer. I think that was an area of his game where he looked pretty comfortable and pretty solid. But I didn't like his defending. He was beaten a lot really easily. Just like the stick checking was pretty soft and unsuccessful. And, you know, he's decently mobile, but not, I think, mobile enough to really project to bigger levels. But I mean, it wasn't like I watched him and went, wow, I don't ever want to watch him again, right? Like, I mean, I've had that feeling about other players in this year's draft, but he didn't really get me to the point where I'm going like, yeah, I this is what I want to go with, you know? I don't know. It's tricky. But I'll check him out in Liga because I will do it. And he might be good, you know, and he is really young. That is a plus. And it's just another thing where it's like, when is he the guy that I want in the draft, right? Relative to the guys that I really, really like, that I have seen a lot of, and I don't know the answer to that question, and that generally is the barometer for me to go, yeah, maybe I might leave this guy off the list. Do you think McKenna, Hage, Martin would be a good line in the actual tournament? The second line, something like Denoye, Misa, Martone. It would be very difficult for Canada to have bad lines at this tournament. I think McKenna, Hage, Martin would be great. Misa, Denoye, Martone, sure. Like, Canada would have to try really, really hard to screw it up, right? I think that what's good about McKenna, Hage, Martin is McKenna is a guy who loves to have the puck, but the areas where he's deficient, Martin is very successful. And Hage is also very successful in the other ways. And the same goes for the other two. I would say, yeah, I think that would be fine. I don't know. The way I don't know. I could see it, but I don't really think too much, especially because it's still early, you know? Like, the thing about Canada is it almost, to me, like, I don't really care about the specific guys and who they're playing with. Like, they should be able to find a way to push for the best spot, like to push for a gold medal, and if they lose, it's only because they barely just didn't squeak the right game out, right? Like, they just have so many good players this year that have dominated the first round of the NHL draft for good reason. That while I think it's really close between everybody else, I think Canada, like, I don't know, they'll figure something out. Why is Jakubis Wozniak not at the World Junior, not competing enough? I mean, I watched a bit of that team that he's on in Hockey Allsvenskan the other day because they are dominating. Like, they're almost certainly going to be the team that pushes to be promoted to the SHL. And look, I mean, I think with Wozniak, I think he's a very limited player. Like, I think with Wozniak, it's one of those things where I don't think he's a bottom 6 guy on a team. I just don't see that as his potential. And he's not skilled enough or dominant enough offensively to be, like, solidly in a top 6. I think next year he's probably there. But looking at Sweden's team, like, I'm looking and I just don't know who they leave off the team based on what I've seen out of a lot of these guys, right? There only Yestreen is Allsvenskan forward on the team. And I've seen a bit of him with that group with Moto down there. And I can see why you would take Yestreen and not Yves Wozniak. Like, I think he brings... he's a much better skater, and the skating and skill combination is better. Like, it's easier to see him like Wozniak is much more of a complementary sort of playmaker. Like, you need to get him the puck. He needs to be able to find you. And he's not the most physical guy, not the most defensively dependable guy. But he just kind of sees the ice well. And I could see how that's very productive in a lot of scenarios. But when push comes to shove, I personally would probably put my money on a guy like Yestreen if I'm taking a guy from that division. Everybody else except Loke Krantz is an SHLer. I mean, I guess you could maybe make the argument that you'd rather have his Wozniak on the wing than Krantz, but Krantz is a pretty physical guy, and he plays a pretty physical, simple game that Wozniak kind of doesn't. So maybe I see the logic there, but I don't think Wozniak leaving him off the team is like that huge of an issue for the Swedes this year. Should Martone be the captain? Sure. I mean, it would be fun, I think. I mean, I think they have a lot of guys that very easily I could see wearing a letter. Iginla, Martone, Coots. Like, they've got a lot of Martin. They've got a lot of guys who play a way that I think guys rally around. Like, if I give letters to guys that lead by example and that I can trust the most. And those are all kind of guys that when they are doing their thing out there on the ice, that is what they do. They are leading by example. They have their roles, and everyone kind of can rally around how they play and the success they have. All right. So Danford and Carl's probably a pair. Sure, I could see that. I mean, Carl's at the World Juniors. I'll be very curious to see how that looks if that's what they do. We'll see. But, I mean, Danford should probably be there, and I think that would be fine, I guess. Did you watch Otto Stenberg's first NHL game? Apparently he did pretty well. I have not, but I probably should, because seeing Otto Stenberg be successful after a few years of no points, as people might say, he hasn't scored. Is he a bust? It would be nice if he worked out in the NHL. It would be fun. I need to know, how was the finale of Survivor? No spoilers, though. I think it was really good. Like, I mean, it was an extremely, extremely frustrating season. Extremely frustrating. And that's not spoiling it. I don't think that's spoilers. But, if I had to grade this season, I'd probably give it a 6.5, because there were a lot of meek people on the season. Like I think there were 2, maybe 3, maybe 2.5, cutthroat strategists, right? And that were really good at it, but they were made better at it because of their surroundings being pretty meek. Like, over the course up until the finale, over the course of the season, the number of times, and maybe it's just the way they edited it, but the number of times that the odds were stacked against the strategically dominant pair, the number of times that the odds were stacked against them, and one of those people would just go to one of the people in the majority and go, "What are you thinking?" or whatever, and then that person overthinks it and goes, "Well, I'm thinking about maybe this person on my own team." And he would just go, "Yeah, all right, let's do it." And then he goes back to his pair that he works with, and he goes, "They want to get rid of this other person, so let's just do that." Right? Like, his ability to do that was pretty incredible, and it deserves respect. It's just, I think the surroundings were pretty, I don't know. And I think that's been a problem for quite a few seasons recently, is like, the people that they're casting seem to be almost like, I don't know how to explain it, but the way they're editing it is like, they just seem to not have a good frame of reference as to who the dominant players are or who the most threatening players are. Like, I'll say this, until the finale, right? Rizzo, Rizgod, Rizgod, he had an idol in his pocket that every single person on the show knew about. He was not quiet about it. He showed it to people. He like played a fake one just for the vibes. Like, he was gloating at how powerful he was. And nobody bothered to even flush it. Nobody bothered to make him so scared at any point that he would play it. They just let him tell them, or let themselves let him in on their ideas. And he's obviously going to go, you don't want to go after me? All right. Like, you know? So yeah, it's pretty nuts. They're nice. Like, a lot of them are nice. And when they are trying to be strategic, it's like, I don't even know how to explain it. You know, like, I think also the thing about this season that's kind of incredible, and it's one of my favorite things about Survivor. It's like my favorite parts of the World Juniors almost always, outside of maybe the gold medal game, is the quarterfinals. Like, the semifinals, whatever. They're cool, they're great, but something about the quarterfinals is so much like it's so intense. And in Survivor, I feel like the final 7 is like where it's the rest of the game gets set up. And this season, in the final 7, it was one person made a decision that changed the entire game, and it was a disaster from there on for that group, right? Like, and it was just a meaningless, emotional decision that changed the whole course of the game. So we'll see. I don't know. It was good. It's a good season. The finale was pretty good, but if I could go back and rewatch it, I wouldn't. I don't think it would be on the list of seasons I would go and rewatch to see what I missed. Is Boris Bourne the best name in the draft? Have you seen him play at all? I haven't really seen enough of him to give you a good answer on that, a good analysis really, but he is on the list to check out at some point. It is one of the better names in the draft, for sure. I mean, Kasper Justavar Carlson is a classic. Any guy named Wiggo is good in my books. Albert Smits, like Alberta Smells, is a classic. There's a lot of good ones this year. There's always a lot of good ones, but yeah. Boris Bourne is pretty good. It reminds me of like a henchman from a James Bond movie. What's Belchet's missing? Like a level of physicality consistently and a level of speed in his game. I don't think he is quite like, if the game sort of slows down, I don't think he's quite as good at protecting the puck as I think you need him to be. And if the game is speeding up, he's not the most reliable transition threat on his own. But if you hit him in stride and he gets to attack your defenseman one-on-one, then yeah, you're in trouble. Like, there's the diversity in his game is a little bit limited. Like, I think his role is pretty limited in terms of what he's successful at, but he's still really good at what he does. Like, again, it's another one of these guys in this year's draft class where it's like, I can easily identify areas where you could play in the NHL for sure and be a useful part of a line. But there's also areas where it's like, he's just not, there's work to be done there. You know, it's not uncommon, but it's weird that this year there's a lot of those types of players. Top 5 of your first rounders with the best motors. Motor, I mean, I maybe throw Stenberg in there, but definitely Lawrence. Bjork, I think, is underrated in that area. Verti Svensk, I love that. I mean, Mutrin, Justavar Carlson, Victor Plant, Pierce Bowie, all those guys. Super, super, super high energy players. Do you like dump and chase? I think, look, I've said this a number of times, but hockey, I love hockey because there's not like one way to win. There's no magic formula, right? You can score goals with Alex Ovechkin standing still in the faceoff dot, right? But not every team has a guy who can stand still in the faceoff dot, crank slap shots, and you win 5-2, right? Like, that's the thing. is that there are multiple ways to win. If you like, the Florida Panthers have won, even while during the playoffs, oftentimes they're the ones getting outshot. They win games. Like, just because you have shot control doesn't always mean you're going to win all the time. Just ask the Toronto Maple Leafs. Well, maybe not this season or last, but the previous era Toronto Maple Leafs. Just ask them, right? There's no guarantees. And when you watch them lose, you can see why they lose. And there's a lot of teams where you can see how they win. And like Colorado wins in a very different way from how a lot of other teams are winning games. You know, a good team is a good team, and a good team knows what they've got. And for me, like, I think for me, I have warmed up to the idea of of why dump and chase exists. But I think it's the secondary option. Like, I think a good hockey player has to recognize when they have a lane, a realistic opportunity to control the puck entering the offensive zone, and when they need to get it in deep in the offensive zone. Like, it's really frustrating as an observer to see someone skate into pressure and cough it up at the offensive blue line, right? Because not only is it that you have at least one person right there ready to take the puck the other way, and your momentum is carrying you into the offensive zone deeper, which takes you more out of the play. Like, it puts your team at a disadvantage right away, instantly, right? But controlling the puck entering the offensive zone is a massive correlate to scoring chances. So you need, like, it's okay to dump the puck in, but the chase is just as important, right? Like, a big reason the Toronto Maple Leafs are struggling is when they do dump the puck in, they do not have the forechecking energy to really reliably go after it and set up a cycle on a turnover in the offensive zone or win the race to that puck, right? Like, it's why I love defensemen who really know how to skate, because if someone is dumping the puck in on you, let's say it's on they're coming up the right wing, so your left defender is challenging them at the blue line, and it's a chip and chase. I want my right defender to be able to really cover a lot of a good player to recognize when that's the option that you have to execute. And when it's not, like when you have an opportunity and when you don't. Ideally, you want to have an opportunity to maintain control, ideally, but there's going to be no guarantee that's always going to be sort of a one-to-one. Anyway, sorry, my stream did drop there, so I'm just checking that we're all good. Okay, yes, we're good. Okay. Anyway, yeah, no, it's a good question though, because it's a really interesting concept, and I think a lot of people come down hard on one side or the other, especially analytics people. But, you know, I mean, there's nothing worse to me than just dumping the puck in and letting the opponent get there and having no forechecking pressure, and you just let them sort of wheel up and come the other way, right? Like, if you're going for a line change, that's one thing, but ideally, to me, like, handing possession over to the opposing team is always something that I would try to avoid at all costs if I was coaching a hockey team. Like, that's just, you can't win if you don't have the puck, right? Yes, forecheck, backcheck, paycheck, exactly. Dominating the neutral zone is what took an ordinary Islanders team to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals under Trotz. Exactly. Like, again, I think what a lot of people seem to, like, not understand about the way I see the game, and maybe I'm just painting with a broad brush and shouldn't, but I think it's like I always see players through the lens of how is the game tilted when you look at their impact as an individual, right? Like, what is their strength, and how does it fit into my scheme in my mind of the game, where I want to have the puck, I want to be able to control it as much as I possibly can. I want to find guys that have the tools to transport the puck, get it back when they don't have it. And in the offensive zone, there's 1,000 different ways to generate offense, right? Well, maybe not 1,000, but a number of ways to generate offense that different guys can do well in. You know, if you have a guy who can just, they've got a lot of speed and they're big, like Casey Mutrin, if I'm coaching Casey Mutrin, I go, if you don't have the puck on the rush, go to the net. That's your job. If you're not going to the net, I'm going to bench you because you are a big, strong skating big boy. If you don't have the puck, find a lane, go to the net. And if I'm the guy who has the puck, I go, I know Casey Mutrin's going to the net. I'm going to throw it on the net. If I don't have an opportunity to get to the net myself and make a play, I'm going to try to go for a rebound, try to make some chaos in front. That's one way to generate offense, right? Or you could go, I'm an elite shooter. I'm going to gap up on this defenseman, stop on a dime, and rifle one, and maybe it goes in, right? That could also work. That could generate offense. There's a number of ways to do it. You might go, I'm Tom Wilson. I'm going to barrel through everybody and or work my way on a forecheck and just attack the net on the retrieval or something like that, right? Like, so to me in the offensive zone, it's more about like the personnel you have and understanding what they bring to the game and letting them sort of play their way and be creative and generate offense that way. But for me elsewhere, there's just really important things that I really value. And controlling the neutral zone is both an offensive and defensive thing. So for me, that's huge. And so to me, it's like point production and how they shoot the puck and all this stuff. Like, that's a nice cherry on top, right? It's a nice cherry on top, but I need to see everything that leads into that. And that's not captured. That's very difficult to capture just by looking at box scores. Very difficult. If you could ask Rodolph one question, what would that be? What happened to make your nose green? Because I'm pretty sure Timu Rudolph would not have a red nose. It probably would be green. But at least green is still visible, right? Like airplanes, when they're flying through the sky, they flash red and green lights, right? I think, something like that. And that's the standard boat directions for port and starboard, right? Red and green, something like that. I'm trying to remember my boating exam that I took when I was like 11 in the woods. That was a wild time. But yeah, no, I mean, if you're talking Daxon Rudolph, honestly, I don't know. I'd probably ask him, what's the one area of your game that you think you need to improve the most? You know, or who's your favorite reindeer on Santa's sleigh? I don't know. Yes, Chernyshov did have his debut the other night, and he didn't look out of place at all. The bursts of speed were impressive. He back checks hard. Yeah, dude, Chernyshov is a really good two-way, complementary guy. I think he leans a little more offensively, but like the reason I loved the pickup when he went to San Jose, not only because he probably should have been gone well before they drafted him, that's a no-brainer, but because they have so many guys who are great possession young players. Celebrini, Smith, Eklund, all great possession players, even Misa. But Chernyshov is that like secondary guy who is right there with them. Like if you work a give and go with an Igor Chernyshov, you're doing just fine. If Chernyshov works a give and go with Will Smith or Macklin Celebrini, you're doing just fine. He can trick defensemen. He can get around them. He can power through them. He can do chip and chases. Like he's got a lot of good stuff in his game. He goes to the net. Like you can sort of trust him to do a lot of things well. I don't think he's like the guy. Like I don't think he's going to be an elite, like if he was required with tasking the beginning of a rebuild on a bad team, I don't think he'd be the right choice. Like he's not an elite level player, but I think he's always been a really good potential top 9 complementary second line winger that can chip in a variety of ways and do so in a good way. I really like him. I'm glad he's looking good. Which coach would you want to have in the NHL? It's a great question. And it's really hard because I'd want to give a good answer and I would have to interview them. Like I think that like I'm a bit I come from the corporate world, right? And I'm a big believer in the concept of, in hockey, everybody who works a white-collar job, plug your ears, but synergy. Like, I think organizational synergy does matter, right? Like, if you're running a company and your CEO, CIO, CFO, and whatever, COO, all have combating, differing thoughts on how a company should be run, you're screwed. Investors will figure that out. Your plans will be a hodgepodge mix of crap, and it probably won't work. it's good to have healthy discussion, but you at least all have to be on the same page as to like what the goals are and what the process, like the nitty gritty details in the process of how to get there. Sure, you can disagree. But you really need to, I think you really need to be, UFO, exactly. You need to be really synergistic. And so I'm not sure why my OBS keeps disconnecting here and there, but I apologize. But in any case, I'm sure there's lots and lots of people who disagree with my philosophy on the game. That's fine. But I know what I'm looking for. Like, I look at like Jared Bednar, a guy who's been with Colorado for a long time, and that team has its style. That team plays the way they play probably because Jared Bednar lets them, right? So if any coach reminds me of something that maybe I'd be interested in, it's probably Jared Bednar. And I know it's convenient because he's coaching one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league. But they just play a way that I resonate. But I also think that college hockey is a good spot to be. And yeah, AJ definitely is sniping the stream. I don't know what's happening, but I'm hardwired into my internet connection, so I'm not sure why this is happening. I might have the bitrate cranked too high. Let's see. No. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe this will screw up the entire stream. But let's decline our bitrate and see if that helps. What was I saying? Oh yeah, like I think finding the right coach would be a very fascinating experience for me, where I would look at all options, right? NCAA, CHL, and really try to find someone who sees it similarly to me, right? We can disagree on the value of a player, like if we're talking drafting a kid and the coach interviews Keaton Verhoff and falls in love with him and thinks he's going to be the bee's knees, and we see the game similarly, and I go, yeah, but I kind of liked how Albert Smith's came off, right? Like I like his style of play. I could see an argument for the coach to go, yeah, but yeah, like I'm not going to go, I'm going to put my foot down and fundamentally disagree, right? It's just a matter of like the general approach, the strategy of the game that we can work around. I think it has to be well planned out. I think there has to be a framework that is the archetype of a lineup that you're trying to construct. And I think that makes your life way easier, as opposed to like, well, this coach has 1,200 games of experience and has gone to the cup final twice or gone to the second round twice or yada, yada, yada. And it's like, sure, but like, why does that mean it'll work for me? Like if he shows up day one and he looks at the roster I've built and he goes, I can't work with this. What is this garbage? Like we need so-and-so and so-and-so. And I'm going, well, why did you take this job? I don't know. So yeah, it's a hard question to answer, but like, I guess Bednar of anybody based on how Colorado plays and who they've got on the roster and how he's handled some of these offensive guys that they've got, right? Like Cale Makar with the Colorado Avalanche, it's a perfect match. You have Kasper Justavar Karlsson ranked at 18, higher than most. I'd say higher than literally every single human being alive. Apart from height, could you compare CJK to Banach and Mooney? No, I don't think he's as skilled as those two. I think with CJK, I think with Justavar Karlsson, I think he is just an exceptional complementary forechecker. Like, I think he's that. I'm trying to think of an NHL example. Like maybe you're looking at a Barclay Goodrow type or a like I think at his top end, it's Brendan Gallagher. Like I could see Justavar Karlsson with how he goes to the net, how he hunts for pockets of space, how quick he is, how agile he is, how energetic he is and physical he is. He does not back down from anybody in the games I've seen. I think top peak things go excellently type player. Brendan Gallagher was not a top 20 pick, but in retrospect, he probably should have been. And he was also not very big. He still isn't, but he wasn't then too. I think with Justavar Karlsson, though, you'll probably more realistically end up with that like third line winger who fans I think will love him. And I think he's gonna play a certain sort of psychological role that I think is really cool. But in terms of like the skill level and the electrifying playmaking ability that guys like Banach and Mooney have, I haven't seen that yet. But also he's playing in the SHL, and it's really hard to do that in the SHL. And I mean, let me pull up his data as well. Yeah, like his data defensively is excellent by and large. Offensively though, like he's really not making plays very much, which I think is something you might want to work on, but that's not uncommon for guys that age in that league. But he's getting scoring chances, right? Like he's going to the net, getting scoring chances, fighting for rebounds. Like he does a lot of things that I think coaches in the NHL are really looking for with players, especially small ones. Like I think he, I think he does a really good job with the defense first side of the game. Like as a defensive winger who is really good at it and also can carry a puck pretty decently and I think has upside for development with more skills training and everything. I think he's great. Like one of the most competitive guys in the draft, I think, or at least certainly in the conversation of that. I love him. And I think that's a big reason he's on the World Junior team. He might not play very many minutes this year. He might be a depth fourth line guy, but I think he could be an excellent penalty killer. And just be a rock solid complimentary 5-on-5 guy that is that a pesky, really annoying little guy who is zipping around the net and going to the net and, having a good time. If you could ask Mark Hunter a question about coaching, what would the question be? It's a really good question. I mean, wait, Mark Hunter's not the coach. Dale is the coach, right? I don't know. Either way. I mean, I think I would ask him the same kind of question that I would ask a lot of coaches, which is like, how do you balance a system with the individuality of the players? Like, what is your philosophy on, like when you're in practice, how much are you really drilling into them a system and how much are you sort of letting them be themselves? Because I think a lot of things, like when it comes to a lot of analysis that I see out there, there's a lot of things I see where I'm like, a lot of that might also be explained by who's coaching them, or a lot of things that this player might be deficient in might be something that a better coach or a different coach might be able to get more out of them because they showcase ability in this way. Right. So I've always been curious how coaches balance practice and drilling with managing a group of 23 individual players, especially junior aged, where, how improvisational do you let them be? How do you manage that? How do you, that's really the big thing is I've always been fascinated by that because, I mean, the thoughts crossed my mind. I have a couple of Hockey Canada coaching certifications just because I want to see what's in that material and understand the structure behind it. I've done that over the last couple of years. And it's like, that's all great. It's all really interesting. But to me, like, I also wonder about I guess if I can cheat and ask a second question, I go, how do you manage how you present yourself to the team? Like, because I think a big part of coaching is motivation and being able to encourage getting the best out of people, right? Like, it's not about punishment. It's not about being their friend, but it's about like leading them and getting them to lead each other and getting them to play as hard as they can. So it's like, what's your checklist? Like, what's your best practices when it comes to like, getting that kind of thing out of players. So it's like, those two things I think are always really fascinating to me. And I think different coaches would see things differently. So yeah, it's always something I'm curious about.
Assuming you saw all the teams play at the U17 World Hockey Championship, standouts from the European teams. Franz Karjalahti made his pro debut in Liga, and he turned 16 a month ago. Yeah, I don't remember much of the Finnish team, but the Swedes had a pretty good group. I didn't think too much of the... Wait, I don't think the Czechs were there this year, right? Were they? Or is that the... No, I'm thinking of the World Junior A. The World Junior A was not awesome this year. Yeah, Czechia, Sweden, and Finland. So let's see. I forget who stuck out for me on these teams. On the Swedish team, I thought Milan Sundstrom looked really good. Louis Carlson had his moments. I thought Douglas Johnson on defense looked really, really good. Who else? Yeah, nobody. Lucas Kashlier on the Czech team, obviously. I think everybody knows who he is. He's pretty interesting. Dominik Biertus also is a guy who I've been curious about for the Czechs. Those guys kind of stuck out to me. In Finland, I'm just looking up and down here. Yeah, Karjalahti, sorry. Yeah, I mean, being in Liga is pretty incredible at this age. I think it's Roni Kukasjärvi was a guy that I was noting a little bit here and there. Lenny Kokkonen as well. A couple. I saw mostly the North American teams, and I was responsible for more paying attention to them. So my notes on the European clubs are not very deep, I will say. All right. What do we got? Okay. The Kraken seem like a bit of a mess at the moment. I get the feeling like when they made the playoffs, it was a bit of a false positive that led to poor decisions. What do you think? I'd be curious to know what you think those poor decisions were, because I'm trying to think, and like they haven't. I think if anything, Seattle's inaction has been much more important. Like they are a team that has drafted a lot, and they have drafted very well. Like they consistently are in the top 5 of my ranking of systems in the league. And I think that it has been long past due for them to like find someone, especially I think on defense, like looking at their defense group, like a Quinn Hughes style thing, right? San Jose or Seattle had the pieces to, not saying that they should have gone out and got Quinn Hughes, but Seattle had the pieces to probably make a comparable deal to that. Like I look at their defense group and I go, Brandon Montour is fine. I really like Vince Dunn. Adam Larson, he's good at what he does. Jamie Alexiak is a fine guy who is solid at what he does. He's going to look great playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs next year. Ryan Lindgren, not a huge fan, and I don't know about that at all. But like Riker Evans, also good at what he does. But they don't really have, maybe Vince Dunn, but they don't really have that true dynamo, especially two-way defenseman. And I would really, really like to see them open the wallet and go, look at everything we've got, right? They just picked up Capo Caco for nothing, and he's being paid $4.5 million now, right? That seems like a pretty good pickup. Jared McCann at $5 million, considering what he's been able to do with that team, is pretty good, even though he's on IR. Like, it's not like they have a bad team, but they seem to be really focused on like the periphery rather than like I think they need a guy, like I think they need 2 extremely high-end players, a center that can insulate a guy like Beniers, make his job a little bit easier. I think they need one of those. And I think they need a two-way high-end top pair defenseman. And that's a tall ask. But the reason I'm like positive and confident about that is because they have the pieces to do something about it, right? Like open your wallets and go to teams and go, hey, look at what, like, I mean, we just drafted Jake O'Brien. Nathan Villeneuve is having a great season. Who else is on here, right? Like Oscar Fisker Molgaard. He played a couple of NHL games. Jagger Furcus, Blake Fiddler, Tyson Jugnoth is having a really good season, and I've liked him the last 2 seasons. They've drafted so many guys where if a team, Yanni Newman's an NHL player, maybe you package him for something. They've got all kinds of players on the team and in the system that they could put together and upgrade somewhere, and yet they haven't. Who do they do? Like, the question then is, like, who is it, right? I can hear myself screaming that because I would say that to me if I was talking to me here. And I don't know the answer to that. I mean, hey, maybe Toronto is sick and tired of William Nylander, and you can trade a whole bunch of stuff and get William Nylander. I don't know. But like, I'm just looking up and down here. Like, if things are really going awry in Winnipeg, what's a Mark Scheifele cost you? Or I don't know. It's a short list, right? Like, it's obviously tough to do. Like, John Tavares is going nowhere, but he could be neat. Because like a lot of these teams need to be willing to move on from these guys. Like Philip Forsberg in Nashville. See what maybe that would cost. He's not a center, but maybe you can capitalize on like Edmonton being too tight against the cap, and like a Nugent Hopkins could be available, and he's been pretty decent. That's not like the top tier level player that maybe you hope. But I don't think a lot of these guys are likely to get traded anytime soon. So it's tough. But yeah, I mean, like Mark Scheifele at 8.5 until 2031, like that's a big contract, but maybe you can get Winnipeg to retain some of it, right? Like maybe you can make that work, because I think he's still got a few good years left in him, right? Like, I think Seattle is in that position where they just have a lot of periphery, and I don't think that's good enough anymore to do. Like, I don't think they're a mess, and I think the Kraken are going to be good, but they definitely need to I think they definitely need to start exploring seriously, like packaging some stuff together, looking for what's available, and trying to go to teams and go, would you be willing to move this guy? And pulling off a move that you don't see very often, where it's like a super high-end player gets traded out of nowhere because a team actually opened their wallets and offered a lot for them. And like it would be with a rebuilding team, I'm assuming. Also, it looks like since I lowered my bit rate, we're perfect. So there you go. Troubleshooting live on the internet. That's what everybody loves. Like, could you go to the Blue Jackets and snag a Monahan or Fantilli out of there? Like Adam Fantilli in Seattle would be very interesting. I'd be very curious about that. The Rangers, I don't think there's anybody on the Rangers you probably want to go out and get. The Penguins, probably not. The Sabres, probably not. The Sens, I doubt the Sens would, like, I don't think the Sens are willing to make a move for one of their major players. I think they're still thinking they're on the up and up. Yeah, like Philip Forsberg with the Predators, maybe. Kadri with the Flames, might cost not as much as you think. The Kings maybe could find something. I don't know, actually, because Kopitar's retiring. I don't know. It's a good question. It's a good, valid question. But like, if I'm Seattle, that's the direction I think you have to go right now. Unless you still want to keep playing the long game, and thinking if we make the playoffs, great. If we don't, it's about the long game. The young guys that are getting older, we're going to figure it out. But I don't know. None of the names in this year's draft can compete with Denver all-timer Boston Buckberger. True. That's true. That's a really good one. Yeah, that's a good one. I think Bjork is a better center than a winger. Hot take, but I don't disagree. I think Bjork on the right team with the right coach and if they were willing to be patient, I think could be a center. His passing vision and his two-way game is really, really good. I would like to see him tried there. I don't think it'll happen, but it could be fun. It'll be a fun experiment. It'll be, he's definitely smart enough. He's a much better skater than he was. Yeah, there could be something. How many chances would you need to score on an NHL goalie? Infinity. Like, look, I'm a defenseman, and I'm not very good at shooting the puck. That's like probably my weakest spot. I'm not scoring a goal. It's just not. I know the answer. It's gonna be never, ever. Now, setting up someone else to score a goal, that might be a better story. That might be more successful. But in my years of playing hockey, scoring goals was not my forte. It was. I mean, I think I've told this story before on the show, but I've played defense my entire life. Right, like when I was little, I was bigger than every other kid. And in the 90s, if you were big, you were playing defense. And in the 90s, growing up, the way it worked, I don't know if it's the same. I'm not 6 anymore. But the way it worked was coach would go, who wants to play forward? Every kid would put their hand up, right? And they go, okay, we need to see people who can play defense. Who wants to play defense? And nobody would say yes. Me being me and being big, I'd go, all right, fine, I'll do it, you know? And I kind of liked it, to be honest. But then my coach one day when I was maybe 11, you know, I like to call him my second dad. He was my childhood best friend's dad. May he rest in peace. Great dude. But he was really funny. Like I remember one game I asked him, I'm like, you know, we're winning 3-1 or something like that. We were winning the game. And I go like, can you put me on forward? Like for one period. I just want to play forward, right? Like I want to try it. And he goes to a kid playing forward and he's like, do you want to switch with Will for a period? And the kid's like, all right, sure, fine, whatever, you know? And I play forward. I scored 2 goals. and I went, see, look what happened, right? I felt like Brent Burns, but opposite. I felt like a superstar. And then he goes, we did it. You're back on defense. We need you on defense. And I went, okay. And that was the last time I ever played forward, honestly. So yeah, goal scoring is not my forte. Never has been, unless I'm playing forward. And then apparently all I do, my goals per 60 playing forward in my career is unmatched. How was Tinus Luke Koblar at the D1 U20s? I haven't seen enough to tell you, but he scored points, so he was insanely good, and it makes me look smart. So I agree with it, and it's true. And he's gonna win the Norris Trophy because that's how good he is. I don't know. I'm more focused on drinking my San Pellegrino Aranciata, which is an elite soft drink. All right. Thoughts on the World Juniors under 20 cuts? I mean, we did that off the top of the show for the Canadians at least. I don't know if other cuts have come. But I mean, cutting O'Brien is a little bit of a surprise. But I mean, Canada historically loves their top 6, bottom 6, right? Like, is Jake O'Brien probably a better center overall than a Cole Beaudoin? Probably. But they think it's more like, well, Beaudoin's going to play down our lineup and he's going to be that forechecker, that physical guy, that heavy, big, fast style of player that you do need. And O'Brien isn't that. O'Brien is a playmaker. O'Brien is a pass first guy who has a very, very good sense of awareness on the ice. And I don't think he defaults as a bottom 6 if things don't go well in the top 6. So I could see why they would cut him. Would he be on my team if I was building the World Junior team? Probably, but I don't know. I also had O'Brien lower than I think most people last year. I didn't have him in my top 10, but he has some really good parts of his game, and he'll probably be there next year. If he's not in the NHL, he'll almost certainly be on the team next year. Who was it? Jackson Smith got cut. that doesn't really surprise me, honestly. I just Jackson Smith, like, he's a frustrating player, pretty shaky at times, and at times where you don't want him to be shaky. I think there's a lot of developmental upside. I think it's not a note of like, oh, he's a bust. I don't think that's what that means at all. I think it's just that, you need defensemen you can really rely upon, and I think Smith is a guy where you want him to play a certain way, and just time and time again you're not seeing it. And so I think he's kind of still figuring out what his comfort zone is, where his game is headed, and all that stuff. And for that, he dropped down my list at the end of the year last year, and again, wouldn't have been the guy that I picked if I'm Columbus. But the upside is there. But I'm not surprised that Canada trusts other guys more and sees more impact coming from other guys right now. I mean, maybe again next year, I imagine he'll be there, but we'll see. And the other one, it was O'Brien, Smith, and Vanacker. Their late addition to camp got cut immediately. I mean, Vanacker's a little surprising because I think he's a really good, well-rounded, complementary winger. Like, I think that if you need him to be a physical guy, a guy that goes to the net and bangs and crashes around and has some good skill as well, I think that that's a decent choice. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's not. I've never been a huge like. I'm not shocked that he's not part of this group. I don't think the team is measurably like worse without any of these players. It's just a really good group, and not everybody can make it. I again, with the World Junior and who's on the team and who isn't on the team, I don't worry about it too much. I just watch the tournament and enjoy it and let the chips fall where they may, because again, like, and I know Hockey Canada coaches have said this in the past, but it's like, it's not necessarily about bringing the best team. It's about like bringing the right group. And I think sometimes bringing the right group might be a little too important relative to the best group sometimes. But this group that they've brought to camp, it's really, I think, really hard to not bring the right group or the best or best. Like, there's so much to chew on and so much there. Maybe their defense group is a little bit questionable, but against what they're up against, I don't think it's that bad at all. I don't think it's a major weak point. The Leafs will be willing to trade Carlo to Seattle for a 2026 first rounder. Oh, I'm sure the Leafs would happily do that. Seattle probably wouldn't. How much does what Macklin Celebrini doing right now compare to teenage Sidney Crosby? I mean, I remember Crosby at this age, and I think Crosby's skill level is beyond. Oh, I think someone commented it actually, but I think Celebrini is more of a two-way guy at this age than I think Crosby was. Like, Crosby was just a high-flying, high-skill guy who just made everybody better, But yeah, I think Celebrini is a very, 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 very impactful player. Just super. Like, I go back to my write-up on him when he was in my last ranking before he was drafted. It's like he has the perfect frame on which to develop a hockey player. Like, his sense of the game and his selflessness while also being able to score goals himself is rare and really hard to find. And any skating improvements, any skill improvements, any length that you give him to be a little more creative and push the envelope and try things, he's only going to get better and better and better and produce more and produce more and produce more. Like, it doesn't surprise me at all, and I think that's something that's rare. Does he make? I hope he's on Team Canada for the Olympics. I'd love to see him and Bedard on that team. I know Bedard's injured and now maybe not part of that. Like coming back from injury and pretty much immediately going to the Olympics might be a little tricky, but I hope Celebrini makes it. Because I've loved watching him this year. He's been great. Any Axel Ilofsson thoughts? It's very similar to how I feel about a different Örebro defenseman from last year, Luka Radivojevic, where they're smaller, they're not the most incredible skaters in terms of like real high-end upside NHL level. They're very confident. Especially Ilofsson is very, very, very confident. He loves to pinch. He loves to jump into the offensive zone, and I just don't see the defensive results yet, But if you like defensemen like Ryan Lynn, You know, I think Ellefson is not as, I don't think he's quite nearly as smart as Ryan Lynn is, and that's why I have Lynn ranked and Ellefson not. But I think Ellefson has a similar sort of very pass heavy, possession heavy style of play that leans much more offensively and might be tough to project to the NHL based on how it is, but I don't know. Maybe it'll work. I could see him getting drafted, but I wouldn't be surprised if teams go in another direction a lot over him. I've been watching bits of Ivar Stenberg, and wow, it feels like a lot of his production is coming from really chaotic situations around the net. I can't tell if it's luck or hard work. I mean, that's the thing, is it is probably, like, he's one of those guys where you make your own luck because you're just really, really good. Because, and it's a big reason why he is now at number one, is because he thrives in chaos. He looks comfortable in chaos. I haven't seen that in McKenna. I haven't seen that in Preston. I haven't really even seen that in Villeneuve. Villeneuve is really good at avoiding the chaos and making room for himself and giving himself opportunities. Stenberg is much more of a guy who really just things, if you want to call it effortless in the positive direction, I think Stenberg is a good example where he just makes the game look effortless. You know, getting through traffic, knocking down pucks, playing in chaotic situations under pressure, all of that. He's really good at it. And that's very valuable. He's a really good player and just gets it. He just gets it. And so it's both. I think he does it through hard work, but the hard work also makes good luck, you know? He works hard. And yeah, he's good. Are you drinking an Italian drink in honor of AJ? No, I'm drinking it because it's really good. If you don't have any of these ever, I'm a believer. I will say this. Here comes my soapbox. I am a believer because these only come in a 4-pack and they are much more expensive than a can of Coca-Cola. But I am a believer in enjoying experiences, and I try to make experiences very valuable. And when it comes to soda pop, yeah, you could drink 12 Cokes, you know, sure. You could drink 4 Cokes, maybe 3 for the price of this thing. 2, I don't know. I don't really do the math in my head. But, you know, this is much more enjoyable, and I don't really hate myself after having it, and it's a little more expensive, but like at the end of the day, I drink fewer sodas, you know, and I it's a scarcity thing. I think humanity has gotten so used to abundance and deficiency that scarcity, enjoying scarcity, and the appreciation of it, of the experiences you have when things are scarce and more inaccessible, is something that I think is a human emotion that I like to capture, you know. Anyway, it's a good drink. The point is, it has nothing to do with AJ, unfortunately. Sorry, buddy. I did not see Marco Rossi being the one with no points on the Canucks after 2 games. I mean, I guess they better trade him. It's over. Call it a day. Your favorite re-entry draft candidates this year? Yeah, I mean, Ivan Fomin for sure, because he is just a barrel of laughs and a ton of fun. Rayo Mullen, I think, has been good. I'm curious to see him at the World Juniors. Rocky Longvard in Sweden, I think, is also an intriguing one. I still like Leo Sundqvist a lot. Thomas Galvis, I think, is having a good year in Czechia. It's all the same guys. You know, I haven't really jumped off the boat on a lot of guys since last year. Igor Barabanov with Saginaw is one that I've kept my eye on, and I've liked him a lot. Andrew O'Neill, I liked him on the NTDP last year. I think he's looked pretty good with Edmonton this year, and as a sort of bottom 6 energy center, I could see something there maybe. Who else? Reese Hamilton, I think, has been pretty good this year as well for Regina. Gavin Cornforth, he's barely playing for Boston College this year, but he's still a very energetic guy that I've really liked, but he's literally one of the last names on my list. There's a few good ones this year. I do need to do a tour of more re-entry guys to see what else I like out of these guys, but the only one that I wasn't really familiar with that I put on the list this year was Barabanov. So, yeah. Did you play cool math games? Did? I do. Like I play a lot of Pips, like the New York Times game. That's a kind of math game, I guess. I love math. I'm a math nerd, man. I I was up until like 2 a.m. the other night, writing Pine editor scripts on TradingView. You know, like I this is my life, man. Like I don't know what I would have done if I was born and raised in an era without computers and the internet. Actually, I probably would just like get really into like radios or televisions or like I probably would be super into like transistor radios or record players and be like, "Oh, how does this work?" Like, "Oh my god." And I'm gonna build the best record player anyone's ever seen. Like that would probably be where I go. But now life is a lot easier for someone like me. I can just have any information I want at my fingertips, and now you can build programs just by talking to a computer. You know, like we're all becoming Tony Stark pretty slowly but surely, talking to Jarvis and building Iron Man suits, you know? Like in 10 years, who knows what we'll be doing, you know? It's pretty nuts. It's a good time to be alive, I would say. I agree. Could you see his production drying up, though, with that formula? No. I mean, that's the thing. Because hockey is by nature a chaotic situation. And I think this is Stenberg. Like, hockey is a chaotic game. The NHL is very chaotic. And being able to find little advantages in that chaos is really valuable. Like, I think there is such a thing as being able to beat guys one-on-one, not because you're more skilled than them, but you just have a better feel for coordination. Where is the puck? Where is your hands? Where is your stick blade? Where is your hands? Where are your hands? Where is your stick blade relative to the puck? How can I get it there? Where am I going to put it? Where am I going to move the puck? What am I going to do here? What am I going to do here? What am I going to do here? That is something that I think is a skill, and you can get better at it. And I think Stenberg is really, really good at it. So, like, he just keeps getting opportunities on a consistent basis and creating opportunities for others in a way that I think will happen and be successful always. Do I think Stenberg's like the be-all, end-all savior of a franchise? Probably not. But I've said for the whole season, like, he's about as elite a complementary winger as you're going to find. Good forechecker, smart player, great passer, really good scoring instincts. It's very kind of Celebrini-like, but as a winger, and he doesn't have the same sort of skating ability that Celebrini has, right? Like, but it's just you watch him play and you're just like, he gets it. The good things are just happening because of him. And to me, that's really, really valuable. All right. Well, on that note, we're a little early. It's 5 to 4. So I don't have anything on the schedule from now until 4:00. Might do a couple more games before the end of the day. But yeah, unless there's any other questions, which I will leave open as I vamp for some time. I am trying to think. I mean, I now the thought that's entering my head is how desperate I am to go get a Christmas tree because we haven't gotten one yet. But we aren't hosting anyone this year, so I don't know if but we like decorating the tree. It's fun. Whipping out the supreme tree stand that we have in the storage room. Anyway, all right. Well, I'm going to call it. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me. Again, if you really want to help us out, you can like and subscribe to the channel as well, but also consider a subscription over at Scouching.ca. Yeah. Oh, favorite albums of 2025. That's a really good question for the end of the day. We'll let me think. Let me think, he says, as he opens up his YouTube music program to see. First answer is definitely Imaginal Disc by Magdalena Bay for sure. That album rocks. Sorry. 2025. Oh, I can't search. Dang. Yeah, definitely Magdalena Bay. What else? The Art of Loving by Olivia Dean. That was pretty good. I'm scrolling by. I just saw Jagged Little Pill. I was like, yeah, that album was really good too. That came out when I was a kid. Yeah, Image rules. And I saw them live and they were amazing. Magdalena Bay, that is. Boy, I didn't listen to as many 2025 albums as I thought. Jeez. I'm a fraud. I'm a hack fraud. Oh, yeah, Death Hilarious by Pigs, 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 Pigs. That was good. That was a good album too. Psychedelic Porn Crumpets came out with an album, and that was really good too. Carpe Diem Moon Man. Yeah, that was this year. That album rocks. Yeah, Magdalena Bay was sick. They were really, really good live. I really, really liked. There's a band that I love, Night Tapes. They put out an album called Portals Polarities, and that album was awesome. That was a really, really good. That was a really good album, and they have a lot of bangers. Let's see. I will check out that album. Let's see what Pitchfork says. Yeah, I don't know any. I'm too old. I don't know any of this stuff. What's their number one album of the year? Don't know who that is. Don't know any of this. Don't know any of this. Yep. I'm old. I'm definitely old. Cool album covers though. A lot of these album covers are really cool. Anyway, all right, let's call it a day. Thanks very much. Yes, I'll check out that album by Erica Kaz, whatever. Thanks very much. We'll see you Monday night. Yeah, Pitchfork is whack. I know, it's a little crazy. Yeah, we'll see you Monday night. AJ will be there, so be a little more banter, which is good. Yeah. Sorry, now I'm looking at my music library there. But anyway, thanks very much. We'll see you Monday night, and this was a lot of fun. Okay, bye.